At one time Zarathustra too cast his delusion beyond man, like all the afterworldly. The work of a suffering and tortured God, the world then seemed to me. A dream the world then seemed to me, in the fiction of a God. Colored smoke before the eyes of a dissatisfied deity. Good and evil and joy and pain and I and you. Colored smoke that seemed to me before creative eyes. The Creator wanted to look away from himself, so he created the world. Drunken joy it is for the sufferer to look away from his suffering and to lose himself. Drunken joy and loss of self, the world once seemed to me. This world, eternally imperfect, the image of an eternal contradiction, an imperfect image, a drunken joy for its imperfect creator. Thus the world once appeared to me. Thus I too once cast my delusion beyond man, like all the afterworldly. Beyond man indeed. Alas, my brothers, this God whom I created was man-made in madness, like all gods. Man he was, and only a poor specimen of man and ego. Out of my own ashes and fire this ghost came to me, and, verily, it did not come to me from beyond. What happened, my brothers? I overcame myself, the sufferer. I carried my own ashes to the mountains. I invented a brighter flame for myself. And behold, then this ghost fled from me. Now, it would be suffering for me and agony for the recovered to believe in such ghosts. Now it would be suffering for me and humiliation. Thus I speak of the afterworldly. It was suffering and incapacity that created all afterworlds. This and that brief madness of bliss, which is experienced only by those who suffer most deeply. Weariness that wants to reach the ultimate with one leap, with one fatal leap. A poor, ignorant weariness that does not want to want any more. This created all gods and afterworlds. Believe me, my brothers, it was the body that despaired of the body and touched the ultimate walls with the fingers of a deluded spirit. Believe me, my brothers, it was the body that despaired of the earth and heard the belly of being speak to it. It wanted to crash through these ultimate walls with its head, and not only with its head, over there to that world, but that world is well concealed from humans. That dehumanized, inhuman world, which is a heavenly nothing, and the belly of being does not speak to humans at all, except as a human. Verily, all being is hard to prove and hard to induce to speak. Tell me, my brothers, is not the strangest of all things proved most nearly? Indeed, this ego and the ego's contradiction and confusion still speak most honestly of its being. This creating, willing, valuing ego, which is the measure and value of things. And this most honest being, the ego, speaks of the body and still wants the body, even when it poetizes and raves and flutters with broken wings. It learns to speak ever more honestly, this ego, and the more it learns, the more words and honors it finds for body and earth. A new pride my ego taught me. In this I teach men. No longer to bury one's head in the sand of heavenly things, but to bear it freely, an earthly head which creates a meaning for the earth. A new will I teach men, to will this way which man has walked blindly, and to affirm it, and to no longer sneak away from it like the sick and decaying. It was the sick and decaying who despised body and earth and invented the heavenly realm and the redemptive drops of blood. But they took even these sweet and gloomy poisons from body and earth. They wanted to escape their own misery, and the stars were too far for them. So they sighed, "Would that there were heavenly wings to sneak into another state of being and happiness." Thus they invented their sneaky ruse and bloody potions. Ungrateful, these people deem themselves transported from their bodies and this earth. But to whom do they owe the convulsions and raptures of their transport? To their bodies and this earth. Zarathustra is gentle with the sick. Verily, he is not angry with their kinds of comfort and ingratitude. May they become convalescents, men of overcoming, and create a higher body for themselves. Nor is Zarathustra angry with the convalescent who eyes his delusion tenderly and, at midnight, sneaks around the grave of his god. But even so his tears still betray sickness and a sick body to me. Many sick people have always been among the poetizers and god-cravers. Furiously, they hate the lover of knowledge and that youngest among the virtues, which is called honesty. They always look backward toward dark ages. Then, indeed, delusion and faith were another matter. The rage of reason was godliness, and doubt was sin. I know these godlike men all too well. They want one to have faith in them, and doubt will be sin. All too well I also know what it is in which they have most faith. Verily, it is not in afterworlds and redemptive drops of blood, but in the body, that they too have most faith. And their body is to them their thing in itself. But a sick thing it is to them, and gladly would they shed their skins. Therefore they listen to the preachers of death, and themselves preach afterwards. Listen rather, my brothers, to the voice of the healthy body. That is a more honest and purer voice. More honestly and purely speaks the healthy body that is perfect and perpendicular, and it speaks of the meaning of the earth. Thus spoke Zarathustra.